I met you a few years ago. At that time, I don't think you would have called yourself a Christian. You were exploring faith. You came to Alpha. Thank you, EJ. And you came to faith, started attending St. Matthias, got baptized here. I remember really memorable baptism service. And then 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, Sean Avard asked you, would you consider becoming, pioneering this new food bank up at St. Richard's, which you did. And so we're almost celebrating our 2-year birthday as a food bank. It was February 2021, just as we're kind of going into the second lockdown, quite a time to launch a food bank. But we would love to hear, what has God been doing in the food bank over that period of time?
Yeah, absolutely. If we could just put up the image of the statistics up on the board there, just to give you a little bit of a picture of how it's grown. So you can see up there like the sort of difference between year 1 and year 2. So over our almost 2-year period, that's a total of 6,705 adults have been fed, 578 children, 7,283 altogether, which is a phenomenal number. But I think really seeing how it's grown from year 1 to year 2, that jump in numbers is something. There's also up there like a picture of second week in July 2021, second week of July 2022, and seeing the difference. But of course, those are just statistics and numbers, and a food bank isn't statistics and numbers, it's people. It's the people who are coming to us, and it's about those real stories. And I'd like to share a little bit of that with you now. So the first story I'd like to share is, and I've changed names, but it's a young woman called Layla. She came to us quite early on in the food bank story and was referred to us by the Hollingdean Children's Centre. This was a young mum, I believe still in her teens when she first came to us, and with her young son, Johnny. She came along because she was struggling financially. Her partner was in and out of prison, so there was lots of issues going on for her. She wasn't a churchgoer, wasn't a Christian, but started coming to collect food from us, and has grown, I suppose, in trust and relationship with us. We got on with her. It was always lovely to see her every week. She was coming regularly, and she was growing that relationship. She actually really lives within sight of the St. Richard's building. So as she's been coming, then things started to grow at St. Richard's. So we've got a play cafe at St. Richard's, and because her son is preschool, she started going to that session as well. And I think one of the things that that I've really noticed with the food bank is people come for the food, they come to the food bank, but then they get to know us, they get to know the building, they feel that kind of warmth and welcome. So it seems less scary to come and start accessing other things that the church has to offer, or even kind of start to wonder, what's this all about then, this Christianity in the church. So she was coming to Play Cafe, and just recently she was asked by the lovely John Bebb, who's a volunteer at the food bank, if she would like to come on a treasure weekend. So that's these lovely weekends that John and Becky run for parents and their children, for single parents and their children. And Layla said yes. So Layla went on that, and at the same time there was something else happening, that another woman, so you've got Layla living here, and you've got another woman living here with her young son. So they could see each other, and then St. Richard's in the middle. So this other woman who has been on her own faith journey in St. Richard's and has come to Alpha and has been coming more and more regularly to church, she had heard a talk at St. Richard's, and it had just suddenly come on her heart and in her spirit that she really wanted to ask this young woman she knew to come and have a cup of coffee, or maybe to come to church with her. But she didn't know how, so she spoke to Melanie, who's up at St. Richard's, and said she had this on her heart but wasn't sure. Melanie said, hey, go for it. Anyways, the day that she went for it and saw Layla and said to her, would you like to go for a coffee, and you're interested in coming to church? Well, Layla had just got back from this treasure weekend, which had kind of ignited a sort of new phase in her journey. So it was like this real, coming together. I think for me, it's those moments, isn't it, where you think, oh, there's the hand at work there of bringing all these threads together to really just create something new and bring that community together. So I think that's a really inspiring story of someone's journey and how not only are they being fed physically, but how they're also being fed spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and finding a new community and a new path forward. That's one story. But also, I think one of the things that really stands out to me at the food bank is that we have created a place there, that God has created a place there of refuge and sanctuary. And that, I feel, really comes across. And the nature of our particular food bank, that spirit that is there. So recently, we had somebody who came to the food bank and who'd experienced a really traumatic event. And it was awful, obviously, to see somebody and to hear the story of someone having experienced something so traumatic. But on reflection also, it was wow that they had a place that was safe to come. Yeah. Because this person has been coming to the food bank again for a long time, has got to know us and has got to know the nature of what we do and the spirit of that place. And I just really felt that, that is quite something that person was able, 2 days later, in confusion and distress, and the thought that came to them was, I'll go to the food bank, and that there they would find help and support. So I think it's stories like that. It's how we're in relationship with people and growing that. There's also another recent arrivals to Hollingdean. Lola, Rachel and Robbie, they recently arrived in Hollingdean. They've been rehoused, turned up at the food bank, had nothing. When I say had nothing, in terms of white goods, fridge, cooker. So this came up in conversation with them. And we were able to signpost them to the lovely Neil Aymar at Christians Against Poverty. Neil's really good at being able to find grants to get people things, white goods. And so in conversation with him, he was able to then get them a cooker and a fridge. And whilst they were sitting there, as I went to speak to them, I saw they were looking at a Bible. So I asked, are you Christians? Are you interested in Christianity? Well, no one Christians, but they were interested in theology and religion as a discussion point. So I said, well, fancy that, because there's an Alpha coming up, so if you like talking about theology and religion, that might be something to go to. And, there are kind of mental health, ongoing mental health issues, which means there's quite a lot of anxiety about stepping over the threshold of a church or entering into community. But because they'd already had that meeting with us through the food bank, it's given them the confidence to come. And so they are, in fact, going along to Alpha. So not only can they explore theology, religion, faith in a safe environment, but they have met this whole community of people. I think there's about 28 people on that Alpha at the moment, and then all the people helping with it. So it's for a new family coming into Hollingdean. The food bank has been a portal, not just for food, but also for community, for the exploration of faith also. So it's those kind of stories that I think really bring it alive.
Isn't that amazing? Oh my goodness. And Flo, one of the things we've talked a little bit about is, gosh, the need is so big, and also individuals have such complex, kind of multifaceted needs. And you and your team, every week in, week out, it's not like other ministries in the church where you can sort of take a summer holiday or something like that. And the question really is, how do you keep your passionate faith hot? How have you learnt not to succumb to a kind of compassion fatigue? When I was praying about today, the Bible passage, and actually these words will be on the screen, that I was just pondering on, were that wonderful prophecy that God gave to Ezekiel, the prophet, and in which God talked about this time in the future when God would do something extraordinary for the people of Israel. And he said, this is Ezekiel 36, verse 25, I will sprinkle clean water on you and you will be clean. So there's something about this cleansing process. I'll cleanse you from all of your impurities and all of your idols. And then it was this bit particularly, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I'll remove from you the heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. And so this ancient kind of prophetic language talking about this time in which God would pour out his spirit in a new way, and this would somehow have an impact on people's hearts. You know, the language talks about going from a heart of stone to having this heart of flesh, or presumably a heart that's more responsive and soft towards people. But what's been your experience of avoiding a kind of heart of stone and keeping that heart of flesh, that soft heart?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, I like that you mentioned that word compassion, Fatih. You should hear it sometimes. And I think right now, with everything that's going on in the world, you know, many people are struggling. Many of the people who previously were giving to the food bank will also be struggling. So to keep ourselves focused on that, to keep our hearts soft and loving and hopeful. I remember that, you know, that question was going through my mind, and I heard Lauren, a fellow worker for the church. She had previously been working with homeless people, and she said in a group discussion about what she did with the homeless people she worked with, she knew she couldn't solve all their problems. But what she had is she could give them to Jesus, that she could pray for them and know that they were being watched over even when she wasn't there. And I took those words to heart because it can, you know, it's not me, Flo Sparham, that is going to cure or solve the extremely complex and ongoing problems that people have for why they're at that food bank. But I can do what I can in that moment and then know that there is a safety net because there is Jesus, that I can keep praying into their lives, that I can keep praying for that power to come into their lives and to hold them. And again, to keep, a little anecdote, for one reason or another, a client ended up with my personal phone number. A rookie mistake when I first started at the food bank. And what that has sometimes led to is this person who is quite demanding and has very complex sort of needs, one weekend phoning me, so that the phone was just ringing again and again, and I had already explained that I won't answer my personal number. So across the weekend there were 15 calls. Now, it would be very easy for my heart to turn hard, or for me to become exasperated, or to start to see this client in a negative way. And that's where I think, the power of those Bible verses, and to remember why I'm doing it, to remember the calling that this is, and the mission that this is, that it's not just a job, it is a mission and a calling. And that calling is to feed people, yes, but it's to love them, and it is to see the light and the goodness and the joy in people, even when it is, when it's hard and they're being challenging. Something like those verses really is important to keep that. Because that person is delightful as well, but very, very tough sometimes. And I think as well, with the team, not all the team who work at the food bank are Christians, and sometimes I have conversations with them where, again, it can be quite overwhelming when you're hearing people's stories. Some of the stories that our team hear, they really are quite overwhelming and very sad and frustrating. And so I have conversations where you can feel that, but when the team members walking away in the evening from the food bank, they feel very overwhelmed by that story and worried about what's going to happen to the person. And for me, I find that it's faith that allows me to be able to reassure them and say, look, you just leave it with me. You can't take this away with you. They are going to be taken care of. You've done everything that you can. So you need to walk away and live your life. And for me, I find that for me it's faith that allows me to do that, so that I can take that, and then I've got somewhere to take it, and I've got a place to take it that is a higher power. And that's not being glib and thinking, oh well, it doesn't matter that people have problems because I can just, it'll just be solved. It's not that. It's just that knowing that the reality of life is that there are problems that we can't solve. But we have to have hope and faith that they can be solved, that there can be transformation, that there can be an outcome. And I think that faith is a key part of that it allows us to keep having that.
Yeah. That's really, really helpful, Flo. Two more questions. One would be, what's your vision? As we look to the year ahead, we know that there's this cost of living crisis that's is challenging so many people. What's your vision for the food bank? And then secondly, how can we, St Matthias, really support and help?
Yeah. So I suppose the food bank's one of those things where ultimately the vision for a food bank is that there wouldn't be one.
Yeah.
Because if the people have gone, there will be no need for food banks because people will have enough. So very much, its mission is to work itself out of existence. And that's also, that's the stated mission, the Trust and Trust that we're a part of, is that there shouldn't be food banks. We should we should work our way towards not having them. However, whilst we're on that journey and whilst we're all moving to that, the reality is right now we need them, and perhaps very much more than ever, given the current challenges that everybody is facing. So the vision for the food bank, I'm just caveat there. So there's the crisis that or the conditions that we're currently in, which are affecting people who are in work or who might otherwise not needing a food bank, with the cost of food going up, cost of utilities going up. There's sort of that side of people who make up to food bank help. But there is also that side to those who need food bank help, where, as I said before, this is a far deeper thing. That even without a cost of living crisis, there are people whose lives are in crisis, and they need more than food. So one of the visions of the food bank is that we have a systems advisor at the food bank every week. Previously, we've had Money Advice Plus advisor monthly, which was a real help to our clients, because they could go and they could ask, were they getting all the benefits they could get, could they have help with X, Y, and Z. And so because that was very successful, we got a bit of funding in order to have an advisor every week. And I think my vision is that the food bank's an oasis. I used to see it as a remote outpost in the Wild West. When I first went up there was no church, but there wasn't St Richard's Church yet. It was just me in lockdown with John Bed, just on our own up there. And it was a Wild West outpost, waiting for the troops to arrive, waiting for the wagon to arrive with the rest of the team. And then the wagons arrived, and the town has built up around us. There's the saloon and the hotel. So that was kind of like a picture that I had in that season as it built. But now, as I pray and think about food bank, the image has changed. I've got a new image that's come when I think about the food bank. That's an oasis. That I'm now part of this oasis, and the food bank is part of an oasis that God has created that offers refreshment and sort of water, but also offers signposting to new vistas and new places to go. And I feel that all those things, having a systems advisor there, we've got community counselling coming in, which will be free at the point of access for the clients. And mental health is one of the big themes and trends. And many, I would say at least half, if not more, people who are coming regularly to the food bank, mental health is one of their needs. So having that access to community counselling, get advice, but also friendship and community. So that the food bank, yes, food, absolutely, it's so important. People need to be fed. Someone said to me earlier, actually from the 9 a.m. service, that apparently the man who set up Salvation Army, he said you can't, something I paraphrase, can't preach the word of God to people on an empty stomach. So yeah, people need to be fed. But I see the vision of the food bank as more than that. They're going to be fed and watered in so many other ways to build community and to build strength there and capacity. That's sorry, lengthy vision.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
For the food bank. So those are things happening and coming. So then how can everybody help to create that vision of the food bank? So the first thing to do is, like I said, we do need donations, we need food. That's critical that we have a well-stocked food bank. And one of the things that Tom and I talked about, and we think would be a really positive thing for the food bank, is to have hubs. The hubs have been, right from the start of this food bank journey, a major contributor and a real pillar of its success. And I think with the statistics back up there, Energy, it was just the statistics picture, it was just to show that 49% of the food in the food bank has been purchased. And that's been purchased with obviously money that so many of you have donated to and that other organisations have donated to. But the second biggest source of our food is the 38% that comes from the hubs. And that's all the individual street hubs that are run by members of the community. Where someone will have, so for instance, I just take my brother and sister-in-law's example, on Hartford Road in Hollingdean, they have a hub, they have a poster in the window, a box outside, a plastic box outside, they've got a street WhatsApp, they let their neighbours know that they're collecting for the food bank and what's needed, and neighbours know that they can bring a donation to their house on a Sunday afternoon, evening, and then they will bring that to the food bank on the Monday morning. And there's other street hubs as well, and Nigels are running one on Barnet Road. So we've got street hubs all over, but we could do with so many more, and it would make such a difference. So I would just love to, if anybody thinks, oh yeah, I could do that, I would love to do that. We've got some boxes ready at the back, we've got some flyers, so we've got everything you need. We've got a pack for you to be able to set up the street hub, and we're going to develop our resources for that further so we can support you to get your friends and neighbours donating regularly. Because then, if everybody in the street donates £1, that's an amazing amount. That's
I love that vision because, as much as anything else, what an amazing way for us to be able to connect with people on our streets and for the kind of response to this need to be a real community response. And my vision would be that every single street has a food collection hub. And so, as Flo said, if you would be interested in setting up a collection hub locally to you, then we've got everything. Just come and speak to Flo at the back. We'll take your details, or even if you just want to find out more, then please do come and connect with Flo. We've got flyers where you can write down your street name and your contact details so that you can kind of connect with people that live locally to you. It's a wonderful vision. I know people can join the team. I know you've got a team kind of training, yeah.
Recruitment night is on the 7th of November, Monday the 7th of November at 3 p.m. I know that will suit everybody for people who are working, so the other alternative is to email me your availability. There are some roles that can be done at the food bank, not physically there on Monday, sort of 11 till 4. But otherwise, if you're interested to come and find out, that will be on Monday the 7th of November at 3 p.m.
Fantastic. Flo, what you and your team in the last few years, as you say, gone up to the Wild West and seen God just seed something extraordinary, which is really bringing transformation to lives. I remember pretty much one of the first clients, I met the guy incredibly isolated in the second lockdown in a wheelchair. Nobody was visiting him. And then last week I asked Quinn about this guy, and he comes to every single thing that St. Richard's is running. He's at Alpha, he's in Sunday services, he's doing everything. And I was like, wow, what you, by God's grace, have achieved there is extraordinary. So can we give it up for Flo and her team? Thank you, Flo. That's brilliant. Well, we're just going to take a few minutes to respond before it's time to go and pick the children up. And the response is, just as Dom and Jess come up, the response is in two parts. Firstly, we talked about this kind of financial underpinning of the food bank. And last week, I launched our giving campaign, which we're calling the Five Loaves campaign. And what we're seeking to do is to raise £15,000 to seed fund these 5 different areas of church life and to underpin the running of the food bank and these 4 different areas. And many of you, thank you so much for giving to that last week. And if you would like to give to this campaign, then we've got some giving envelopes on your chairs. If you didn't have an opportunity to do that last week, or maybe you've just been inspired by what Flo's been talking about and you want to give more, then in a moment we're going to take up a collection, and all the details on the envelope are very self-explanatory. If you want to just give a one-off amount, what you're doing is kind of pledging amount on that envelope, or many people give by monthly giving, which really is what enables everything to happen. So if you would like to give by monthly giving or increase your standing order, you can do that on the form. The second thing we're going to do, to this point about the Holy Spirit softening our hearts, is we're going to have an opportunity to invite God's Holy Spirit. This might be that I know there are some people on the food bank team here, and we want to just give an opportunity for these people to be ministered to and to be prayed for. But there are many of us involved in meeting need in your area of work or in an organisation that you volunteer for. And so I think the prayer is, Lord God, would you keep my heart soft as you pour out your Holy Spirit upon me? You know, there might be people that, oh gosh, yeah, that compassion fatigue is a reality for me. I can feel a bit of a hardening. I want a soft heart, so we're going to have an opportunity to pray.